I'll resubmit.
Okay, we're being recorded.
Okay, all right. So we'll go ahead and get started with our May meeting. Let's see here. So
how did it get to be May?
I know. I was looking at the calendar. I'm like, oh my goodness, next week is Memorial Day already.
I know.
Holy cow. Okay, so we got the minutes, so I'd like to make a motion that we edit or addend the minutes from April to add Steve's name.
I'll second.
And then everyone in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Beautiful. And so I'd also like to make a motion then to approve last month's minutes once the amendment is made.
I'll move
Aye.
as amended.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Aye.
You got the giggles, Debbie?
I do. It's been a long COVID. I don't know.
Okay. Let's see here. Our financial report. So everyone received the April bills that Stacy sent out along with the additional email that came out yesterday with the last payment. Do you have those up? I'm sorry, I don't have those up right now to read the check numbers or the invoice numbers.
I can have them.
I can grab it really quick.
Sorry, I gotta root them out of my Google Drive here.
My email's acting kind of funky.
It's really actually pretty easy. Voucher number 65 through 70. The total amount being $4,268.02.
Thank you. Sorry, my email just kicked the bucket here, so I'm just relaunching it. Okay, so then a motion to pay the April bills.
Make the motion.
Thank you.
I'll
Pay the
second it.
bills.
Okay, Hal second, and then all in favor.
Aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, and then we'll pass the torch to Chris for an update. And everybody received his email, yes?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'm going to try to share my screen. We'll see if I'm successful with that, but all right, can everybody see?
Yep.
See
Yep.
that?
Yep.
All right,
Yeah.
all right. So this, I think everybody, anyone who's new on the call, this is, I've probably seen this for a few months now, so this should be starting to become pretty familiar with. We have the year-to-date total, and we have that broken out between 3 different classes. The general fund, that's like the library's general operations. We have programs, and we have grants. Those total to that year-to-date total column and just about the middle of the page. And then we have the year-to-date budget, and then we have a variance column, and we also have the annual budget column just for comparison purposes. And so some big things that you can see that the tax-based revenue is significantly over budget. The biggest reason for that is that Farmington and the GCSD revenue have been already received, and those were, I think those were spread out in the budget in QuickBooks Online. So that'll even out as the year goes on. I think we're just about almost exactly on budget actually for text-based revenue. The fines are a little bit low, and so is the miscellaneous revenue. That's a little bit low. Those are because of the New York State pause. So people aren't incurring those those copier charges or all the all those fees that they would normally incur if they were coming to the library in person. The interest income is a little bit below budget. This is also the first year that we've had a budget for interest income, so we haven't typically budgeted anything there, but that's just an estimate, and that typically evens out as the year goes on. Hopefully we can see see a better return there. On the expense side of things, salaries, same issue as with the miscellaneous revenue and the fines, just a little bit lower due to the reduced hours because of the pause. Benefits are mostly below budget because health insurance hasn't been paid out yet to the town. So that's actually, it's a negative expense right now because we're collecting some withholdings from employees who make contributions to their health insurance. So, and then we haven't paid the town. So right now the library is making out like a bandit.
It'll come back.
Yes, yeah, it does. It swings back for sure. As far as contractuals go, those are under budget by about almost $5,000. So materials and supplies, those have been underspent. New York State laws. I feel like that's a broken record, but that's the main reason there. Stacey has looked on some other online expenses, generated some additional online expenses, things like marketing or the website. The Zoom accounts, because she doesn't have to buy as many books and periodicals and things like that. So, as those costs are going down, a little bit of an increase in the technology expenses, but not so much that it offsets the reduction in the materials and supplies. The New York State Library contract hasn't been paid yet, but when that does get paid, that'll even out. The equipment and the miscellaneous, that's a little bit over budget right now. That's mostly due to the painting. So the painting that the town gave us some money for, that invoice has hit. So that expense was in the equipment line. So if you look at the reserves, your unrestricted or your general account has about a little over $526,000 in it. Again, that's got to last all year, so it's not all fun and games, but typically that's still a pretty good balance given where we are at this point in the year, and given that we're continuing to operate and do the best we can with programming even during the pause. So
Yeah.
Thank you.
Is New York State pause, is that, I mean, for those of you I'm retired, so those of you in businesses, that seems to be the normal term people are using whenever they refer to things, and I mean, everybody else is saying the pandemic, right? So I just was curious.
Yeah. I think, I was just trying to use something. I've seen Stacey use New York State pause on most of the things that she sent out, and I've been reading. So I was trying to be consistent with the audience, but no, you're right. I think everybody I've heard, most people just say COVID, pandemic, awfulness, whatever.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. One thing I did also want to point out is that you do have a couple of $1,000s left in that deferred revenue account. So for those of you who aren't familiar with what that is, a few years ago, we received some bullet aid, about $13,000 for new carpeting and renovations, really. And the carpeting has been installed, and those chairs were reupholstered, and we still have about $2,000 to $3,000 left of that money. So it's just sitting as a liability on the balance sheet. So something to think about, that money's there for capital needs, building needs. You don't have to use it anytime soon.
Can it only be used on those sorts of things? Can it be used on any of the PPE that we have to purchase?
I was going to ask that.
That's a good question. I don't know if I remember what the original bullet aid document said. We'd have to look at that, at the original.
That was the Bob Oakes money, and I don't think there were any restrictions.
Okay.
And I did just buy a touchless hand sanitizer dispenser.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that didn't cost that much, but it could, you know. come out
I
of that.
think actually that's something, when we start thinking about budgeting and the reopening of the library, I don't know at what point we're going to have a meeting about that, or maybe we even need a special meeting. But I think having touchless hand sanitizers throughout are going to be important.
Right. So I'd kind of like to see what the one I bought is like. It's supposed to get delivered to my house pretty soon. I have the rootstock hand sanitizer that I purchased from DeFisher Fruit Farm, and it's supposed to be able to work in there. So I thought when it comes, I would try it and make sure everything works as it should. And if I'm impressed, maybe having 3 or 4 more of those could be a good idea. That still wouldn't spend all the money, but it would take a little dent out of it. I think it was around $250 for it, if I remember right.
All right.
Okay. Any other questions or comments for Chris in terms of the budget or where we stand with anything?
I won.
All right.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you so much, Chris.
Yeah.
All right, so next, let's see, our director's report. Everybody got a chance to read it, and any questions or comments? I know Gary sent an email with some bullet points.
Yep.
About the our reopening plan. So I think that was basically the main topics, because we actually had a call with Pioneer the other night, the presidents and directors, about that whole process. So that was a big part of just what I had for the new business section. But any other questions or comments about the director's report?
Stacy, are we going to talk about the strategic plan?
I think that comes later. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
under new business, but
Okay.
if you want to chat about it now, you can. It's,
I just wasn't sure where it fit.
Yeah, no,
and I
there
didn't look at the
somewhere.
agenda. I'm sorry.
no
Yeah,
worries.
it's
I
coming.
actually sent the wrong one yesterday, and I apologize. So I just a little while ago updated it because Denise caught me. So.
Do you want to talk about the reopening plan just a little bit? Because one really good point Gary brought up was the bathroom situation.
Yeah.
So I reached out to Ron about that. And so when we're under the modified service situation through the end of July, we're not going to really have a lot of people in the library. So we could, in this period, because it's a special situation, it's not like normal. Normally, when you're open in a normal way, you have to have bathrooms, right? But we're not really advocating people hang out at the library. And I don't know if you want to stick with 1 or 2 laptops, but either way, that's not a lot of patrons that will be allowed to be in the library for an extended period. So maybe restricting bathroom use with the codicil that if somebody looked like they were going to vomit or they looked like they were in a bathroom emergency, we would let them go, but not to advertise that, use common sense. If somebody looks like they're going to vomit, I'd rather it in the toilet than, out in the library proper. What do you think about that?
Better.
I'm sorry?
I said outside is even better.
Well, that's true. I mean, not at all is the best.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, I think to your point, Stacy, that it is limited use. It's more folks coming in and picking up materials, and it's not so much hanging out, or
Right.
having classes, things like that.
My
And
concern-
also, I'm sorry, go ahead.
My concern with the bathroom is just it's so many touch points, and we're short on people. Like one person's not going to be able to come back unless she can come back to do work in the bolus room, but because of medical reasons, I mean, she doesn't have much of an immune system because she had cancer. So she, I forgot where I was going with my thought. Don't you hate that?
Well, just if she's on
Join the
staff.
club.
Oh, yeah. So she can't work the front desk. And then another person resigned because she's really nervous about all of it. And so she's resigned.
Oh,
Yeah. I mean, she was really part-time, but still, these are people that were filling hours. So I may have to try to find somebody. Right now, I have a sub that was willing to come back and fill in for a while, but I'm going to have to find somebody. So if anybody knows anybody looking for work that you think would be good in a library,
okay.
send it my way.
How many hours a week?
Probably roughly anywhere from 12 to 20, I'll say.
Okay.
So part-time.
What does it pay?
$11.85. Unless they come with like a lot of library experience, then maybe we'd do 12. Woo!
Okay.
Normally brand new people just get the minimum.
Yeah.
Can I butt in for a moment?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that something you might consider not filling until we get an idea of what the budget's going to look like?
Well, if we don't fill it, we have to cut our hours. I was
Why is that?
already,
Why is that?
well, because I wouldn't have enough staff to run the library.
I thought we weren't, what I heard you say was you're not expecting an awful lot of patrons. I don't mean to step ahead of any agenda items, but part of the discussion when it's my turn is going to be about budget. I know that was something that we began discussing, was it 3 weeks ago?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a reality that we're going to have to face, is the revenues are going to be down this year. And so I'm just wondering if that might be an option until we get a better idea of what kind of money we actually have.
It could be an option, but we're going to have to cut library hours.
Well, I don't understand the relationship.
Yeah, is there not an employee that would be able to pick up, or employees that would be able to pick up extra hours?
No, we're on bare bones. We've been on bare bones for a few years. I mean, we have to have at least 2 people to run any shift. And really you have to have 3, because once you cross over mealtime, you have to have enough people so you can relieve somebody to have a meal.
What I'm suggesting is this is an opportunity for you to maybe have some control over some financial wants, rather than having a lack of funds dictate how you end up responding. I'm just throwing out suggestions to maybe mull over.
I guess I don't understand what you're telling me.
Well, I'm not trying to say anything in concrete, but if revenues are down, and let's say that worst case scenario, let's say you have less money to work with next year, and let's say it happens to be the same amount of money that you would pay somebody to fill in this new position, you may have an opportunity to control the decisions that you make, given the fact that there may be less funds for this next budgetary year. Am I making sense to anybody?
Yeah, so
I understand where you're coming from.
let me try to just say the same thing, but maybe help. It seems Stacy a little confused, but
Okay.
So Stacy, you're telling us that the current staff you have to at least have 2 people in the library, sometimes 3, has been is to meet the hours we have in place today. The staff you have and the hours they're given is what covers it.
Right.
And as soon as you have one less person, it either affects those people got to work more hours, or
They can't. I'm bound by civil service. I can only work part-timers a certain number of hours. I can't go over it. Or they're full-time, which is a problem we can't have. Because then you have to have benefits.
But is there any flexibility in some of those people that you just told me that the person you would hire would be, 12 to 20 hours?
Yeah, but so I have some very part-time people that actually work other places, and they're not able to take more hours. The ones I have that could take more hours maybe would, but they can't, because then they'd start to cross over that into the 30-hour zone. And once you cross over into that zone, then you have to start talking about benefits.
Okay.
So when we increased our hours, was it last year or this year? I guess it would have been included. We didn't hire anybody, but we had flex where somebody picked up and now that was the said person potentially.
Yeah, you could look at it that way. I mean, it's a cobbling of different people because of this situation, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
In the current situation, Stacy, in your conversations with Ron and the Pioneer folks and whatnot and reopening, has there been any discussion about opening, but maybe not as at the same schedule that you were before, to have a lighter amount of hours, only temporary, doesn't solve the problem long term or next year or anything else in terms of covering. But I didn't know if that was something that was discussed with other libraries or something to consider that might help this situation right at the moment.
We could do that.
Yeah, and that's actually part of what they were talking about the other night on the meeting was, don't jump to open. They almost kind of suggested not to open right away and to have those delayed hours, or the staff there that's walking materials out to cars or having folks come in intermittently, but don't go too hard out of the gate. That they wanted us to kind of tread lightly there. And even with opening up June, July, kind of pump the brakes there and don't advertise that right now, because we just don't know where we'll be or what's safe, or, so don't advertise a hard opening date. So that was.
And you're still gonna, I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying that was just a big part of the conversation the other night.
It was.
Yeah.
And we're still gonna have remote virtual programs.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know when regular in-person programs will be able to, I mean, that's way out in the distance.
I thought I had. Sorry.
Yeah, so I think, to Bruce's point, and we'll see where we go. I mean, nothing is definite right now, but it's definitely something to wrap our heads around.
Yeah.
Figure out.
I mean, kind of, if we knew we wanted to cut our service hours, it would be a good conversation to have now, because, I mean, it does look like most libraries will be going back around June 15th, and most will open around June 29th. So, I mean, if we were going to cut our hours back, it would be easier to know that now than to, wait till our, what is our June meeting? June 20 something, 7th maybe?
22nd.
22nd. So that'd be a week before. I mean, right now, tentatively, it looks like it's June 29th. So I don't know. I mean, should we have
the other thing, Stacy, you and I have talked about, I've got to start, working with you, and we had one meeting the other day, but on next year's budget. And, based on, Bruce, as we get more feedback from you on what's going on, that's all going to feed into the next year's budget planning. And so, as you have more data to share, obviously that's going to be helpful in doing that. But I think our target was to have next year's budget by July or August. I think we have to have it approved by August. So you and I were going to start working on it to start, getting something together. That June 22nd meeting, we might have a preliminary something, and then by July we'll hopefully have finalized things. So.
Right.
Just bringing that up.
I guess with that said, Bruce, did you have anything else that we can just segue into any updates that you have or what's been discussed at the town meetings in regards to reopening and budgets and things like that?
It's still a little early. All I know right now is that revenue in late March and all of April and going into May is down.
Yeah.
And that's to be expected. And so on our end, our supervisor has had a meeting with all of the department heads. We discussed as a town board, should we put a cap on what department heads are spending, regardless of whether or not it was approved during last year's budget. So should it run by the supervisor's desk first, regardless of whether or not there's money for it, in anticipation of us having less money this year. So it's a conversation that we're having as a town. I think it's smart. I think you want to try to be as proactive as possible. Better to err on the side of caution. So I don't know exactly.
So what you're saying is it might be smart to go with the minimum number of hours that we can for this year to try to sort of have a little bit of money for next year if we need it.
That's how I would be thinking. As I would try to be thinking conservatively that way. That way you have control of your decisions rather than the money facing you to make decisions that you didn't want to, or forcing you to. And when you're talking about an employee resigning, you can also think of that as that's however many hours at that wage is money that's now going into your fund balance for a rainy day, and to be able to have that.
I can't think of it that way because unless we cut hours. I mean, I literally can't. That's why I have a sub filling in, because I can't have the schedule we had without having another person to fill in. I can't. I mean, I really can't. So
can volunteers at all fulfill that? I don't know if there's a rule.
Civil service.
Okay, that's okay. Just didn't know the answer.
Okay.
So we need to talk about cutting hours.
But I don't know. I think you're going to want to have discussions about what will we do if there's a shortfall. And I think you should have the same kind of conversations as we did, which is whether or not it was budgeted for this year, are there things that we don't need to spend money on right now?
Well, and quite frankly, what's the smart way, when reopening, how are we going to manage the library? And that, has, in the modified service plan, maybe we have to look at some of that as well. Maybe, as far as the classes we offer, keep continuing to do the virtual, and, maybe those hours do get cut for safety reasons, or, I mean, I hate to see that just because we work so hard to get those hours back, but it's kind of out of our hands, and
right.
I want to set ourselves up for failure for next year.
Exactly. Well, obviously these are very unique times. I did have another conversation with Paul Rubery last week. I shared with him the limitations that we had in investing the money as a municipality. I did talk to him about whether or not his organization would be able to invest on our behalf and then cut us a check, because they can they can invest the money in a riskier way and get a higher yield than we would be able to do that. And seem to be open to that, actually. So the conversation I'd like to have going forward is whether or not, if that were to happen, would that organization write the town a check, and then the town would then write the library a check, or does it go right to the library? When I was talking to the board initially, they prefer to just, the supervisor's first opinion was she didn't really want to be in the position of being a middleman. She'd prefer to see the check go right to the library. But speaking for myself, I would like some assurances that just because money becomes available, that we're not just spending it, especially going into this year. So that's where we are with that. So I need to have a follow-up conversation with Paul and see if he's willing to go that avenue. But I don't know what the I don't know how all of your purchases get approved, whether or not the board looks over everything that is paid for first, or whether Stacy, as the library director, she gets to make all those decisions as long as it's been budgeted for. How would you go? How would you change anything from here on out going into the rest of the year?
Sorry about that.
Open-ended question.
Isn't there something that came from Ron about not buying books, but the funds are going to go somewhere else?
I diverted some money to ebooks.
I thought I read something from Ron about using that money for something else.
I'd have to go back and look. I don't recall.
I don't recall that either.
I don't know. I guess to your point, Bruce, I mean, typically, you know, if there's something big that's being purchased, you know, Stacy will bring it to us, you know, and we'll all vote on it. But typically, as far as materials or, you know, books and things like that, you know, she has a good handle on what's needed, and
I'd stay within the budget.
Yeah, I mean, those are merely suggestions. I mean, you have a board to make all those decisions.
yeah.
I would be conservative going forward.
Yeah.
I just want to note that the 6 years I've worked for the library, we have always been conservative in our purchases.
Yeah, I'd say we run pretty lean as far as that goes.
Absolutely.
But yeah, no, those are good points though, and to your point, everything's changing and pretty fluid right now. So anywhere that we can make adjustments or reevaluate how we've always done things, you know, maybe there's opportunities there. So
Okay.
Okay.
That's all that I have.
Thank you.
Sure.
Let's see here. Shirley, do you want to give us updates on our Friends activity?
I'd be delighted. The first thing is, in lieu of a May Friends meeting, an email containing summaries from the different committees will be sent to the members. The second is the grant committee is meeting this Wednesday to review and vote on 6 proposals that we received. The third, the Friends Nomination Committee will be sending out an email for members to vote on the proposed slate of officers. And the fourth, Fundraising Committee is monitoring the New York PAWS, Macedon, and libraries' responses to the coronavirus and reopening phases to see how it affects future fundraisers. We did get confirmation that Gal Wynn our chicken barbecue will be a go, even if New York State is in pause. They have accommodations, so that is one we definitely know. We have an email into Doug's Fish Fry because that's another fish fry to go, checking to see if that would still be a go. And the other thing is Can Kings has remained open the entire time, so anybody is more than welcome to bring cans down to Can Kings in Palmyra and say, oh, this is for the Friends of the Macedon Public Library. Our other fundraisers, you know, it just depends on everything.
What fundraiser was that? I didn't hear it.
Which one?
The last thing you just said.
Can Kings.
Thank you.
In Palmyra. They have remained open, or Fairport, whichever may be closer to you. And there's one in Webster. So you can always bring cans and bottles there and say that this is for the Friends of the Macedon Public Library.
Oh, okay.
And that's ongoing. So.
Okay.
And that's it.
Wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Let's see. So, let's see. So our service modification plan. Everybody got a chance to look at that and review it. Gary, do you want to bring up some of your points that you called out? I know the bathrooms, we had talked about that.
Yeah, the only other, I guess, major one, and Stacey and I talked a little bit, but was when people, it wasn't real obvious in the document that the library is not open for browsing, and although we say, you know, that you can drop your books in the box and wait in your car or whatnot, it didn't come right out and say it. And either it needs to be in this document, or Stacey said, I think you said something, Stacey, about maybe on the notice that you're going to send out,
Yeah.
or on the website, and it'll be other places that we're not open to, you know, traditional browsing and looking at materials.
Yeah. I think the plan should be sort of summarized in a more friendly, easier to read, quicker way, and posted for people who want to read the whole thing. But
so I think you're saying that there should be like a what do they call the version, the shorter version? I can't think of the.
Yeah, executive summary.
Right, for folks to, these are kind of the general guidelines. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. The other thing was about how do you request books. So, you know, in there it said that, you know, the Pioneer system, you can't go in there and put a hold on a book, and you can only get books that are in Macedon, and not everybody knows how to use OWL to look up books that are only in Macedon. I mean, most of us do, but I'm sure there's some people that don't. And so we probably need to have that process outlined for people so they know how to look for books in Macedon. What information do I have to capture from the OWL system to give in the email or the request form to request these books? Is it the title? Is it the author? Is it the, you know, card catalog number? What is it? And so that you get the right item when you're coming to pick up your stuff. That was the other major, you know, question. It wasn't real clear in the document. It needs to be clear to people somewhere. That's all.
Yeah.
And again, I think, I don't, if you had, you know, something on the website or.
Yeah, I've already got all that ready to go because I've been doing it with the kids. So I'll just share it with everyone.
I think that covers the questions that I had most raised.
And I just had a question. As far as the materials coming back into the library, what is the process for the 72-hour quarantine, if you will?
For us, it's 4 days on tables and then back on the shelf on the 5th day. I went with 4 because there's some debate as to whether if it's 3 days or 3.5 days or whatever. So I'm like, I'm just going to go 4 because that way
you're covered.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
Stacey, what do you? Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I did see where it said on the 5th day. I just didn't know, like, you know,
Yeah.
that looked like if you bring them in, you know, it's kept here and then they're kind of rotated, or just put sticky notes on them when
We're
they're.
gonna have tables, so 4 tables set up, and they'll be labeled. And so day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, and then you come back. And
Starbucks.
so day 1 we'll be able to go back out, and day 5
I
will
don't
go.
hear you talking.
Anyway.
Okay.
So question for you, Stacy.
I'm listening.
People will be dropping off books that don't belong to Macedon. What are you doing with those?
Well, they're gonna hopefully come back the 2 weeks when it's just staff, and they're gonna run a quick delivery to try to clean up stuff in the system. So I would imagine, based on the phone calls and the messages and everything that I've gotten, a lot of people, once we say, hey, we're not open for you to do anything, but we're taking your books back, there's going to be stuff coming.
So how are you going to handle, are they going to go on the 4 tables, and then you have to quarantine the non-Macedon books, and then instead of it going back on the shelf, they go on a 5th table that goes out to Pioneer?
I think for the case of I think the system will tell us how they want us to do that. I'm not sure, because I would imagine that the owning library will quarantine their own stuff.
But they did talk the other night on that call with Ron about the pickup and that whole process as well.
Right. I think once we're going, everything will get quarantined before it goes back. But I think when everybody first goes back, because they want to do these deliveries quickly, I don't think everything's going to get quarantined. Because remember, Ron said the things you receive are the things you're going to want to quarantine. So if you're receiving it, you quarantine it. So from that aspect, it's worse for the delivery drivers than anybody. You know what I mean? Like, they're going to have to be really careful with gloves and stuff, because at least the libraries can take in stuff, and no matter what, you can, when in doubt, just put it on a table, right? But the delivery people, they got to handle it.
Yeah, and they're all over the place too.
They're everywhere.
Okay. Have we received or been offered any donations for masks from people being home making them?
Not yet.
Just curious.
Well, Ruth Sargent is going to make us some, but I don't know beyond that just yet, because I just advertised it. So we'll see.
Oh, you did advertise it. Okay. That's what I was wondering, like, because there's a lot of times there are people in the community who are saying, you know, does anybody need masks, or but I didn't see it advertised, so I'm glad you did.
I did. And I bought a box of like 50 just in case, you know, I didn't have a lot to give out.
Bless you.
Are we giving masks to people who come into the library, or are we expecting people come in the library with the mask?
We expect them to come with a mask, but
if they don't,
we'll have them. And I asked too for people to, if you know anybody that sews, we really need children's sized masks, because if you go out and you see children, 9 times out of 10, their mask is way too big.
Yeah.
And I thought if there were people who could sew child-sized masks, that would be a great service to the community, to be able to say, here's a mask for your child. I see the one they have is too big, you know, because it doesn't do any good.
It's a shame we're not in Monroe County, because in Monroe County, there's a whole system for this.
Stacy, the woman whose name you gave me before, who made the masks that were donated to the food pantry, she was also donating children's masks. So you might want to reach out to her.
She'll probably, I would expect she will donate to us, because she probably will. I know her.
Okay, but you know, maybe you can specifically say, can you make children's masks for me?
Right. Yep. I did say it in the email I sent.
I know you did.
Yeah. Yeah. But it wouldn't hurt to reach out to her. she probably would do it. She likes doing that, so.
I think those were my only questions about the modified service plan. Did anybody else have anything? Did it look good? Any questions or concerns with the
I
document?
have a question.
Yeah.
When I'm reading the checkout materials and you say call or email ahead, whose email would we do it to? To you, or are you going to have a specific one? And then
I think it'll be to me right now. I mean, that
and
could
then
change. But,
what would you want in the subject line?
well, I'll have that all worked out. I'll probably have it. I might even have a separate email, maybe have them use the Mac Reg even that we use for programs. And so you would just put, you know, book request or DVD request or whatever it is.
Okay.
Yeah. Can you formulate like a template for that?
Yeah. Well, I have to.
Well, no, just I mean like this is, I want this here, like in your subject, to Shirley's point, you know, I need, you know, the book name or the number, or, you know,
right.
Formulate a template of like that specific of
I think what we're really going to realistically get is most people, no matter what you do, a lot of people, I know this, there's people who come all the time, like at least once a week or more to the library, and they don't care to learn how to use the catalog or find a book. They just want to come up to the desk and say, oh, I heard this book is really good. Can you get it for me? And you can try, we try. And I would imagine that it's going to be a lot of that. Like, I'm going to put it out there so that if people can give us the information to make it easier, great. But I know there's going to be a bunch that are going to just be like, they're just going to call and say, hey.
That's what I do.
Oh, it's, I wasn't looking at you. But I mean, it's a lot of people. More often than not, I would say most people, even if they're regular library users, they just ask. They just ask for help. We help them. So, yeah. But I will have something in the case that somebody wants to make it easier.
All right. Any other questions or comments, or are we okay to go ahead and vote and approve this modification plan?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I will make a motion to approve the Macedon Public Library Modified Service Plan document.
I'll
I'll second that. Oops.
Sorry.
And then all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Good stuff. All right, so then we'll move on to the long range plan. And I'm so sorry, I was doing a tour of urgent cares that day and didn't get home till well after.
We were a small but mighty group.
I know, you guys did a lot of great work here, so I'm really kind of bummed that I missed it, but you got a lot accomplished. Debbie, do you want to talk about some of the changes, or does anybody have any questions after reviewing it?
I would probably leave it to Stacy unless you'd rather me, but.
Does anybody have any questions about it? Or suggestions or anything?
I think the overall, I'll just chime in briefly, just the overall focus of the three of us was to modify in a way that was obtainable, to be broad in a way that that didn't tie us to having to do things that we couldn't obtain, but also not be too wordy, and so that it was clear what the goal was. And so I think that was what we were trying to accomplish. That's my 2 cents. I don't know if there.
I think you did.
A couple of questions. Yeah, I thought it was pretty succinct. At one point, we had asked Ron if there was other examples. Did you guys have an opportunity to review or look at any other examples just for feedback?
No,
Okay.
this was his template that we
Okay.
used, and his guidance that we used in the first place, but I had forgotten about that.
Yeah.
I have experience with other strategic plans, but not but I didn't look at any related to libraries, no.
Okay. It says review quarterly. I don't know. It seemed frequent to me. I don't know. Is that maybe that was already on the template, but it just seemed like it was for a strategic plan. It just seemed like 4 times a year seemed a lot, but that's just my thought.
That's one of the things Ron usually recommends.
Yeah, I like it just because, I mean, you know, look how much not how much, but, you know, there's been things that we've wanted to tweak.
We've changed it before we even.
Yeah.
That's fine. It's just a thought.
So just kind of touching the document, looking at it, reviewing it, making sure we're on target, making sure, you know, if we need to tweak anything. I guess, I don't know, I got that from Ron after last year and this year, but I do like that idea. Although it does seem overwhelming to do it. But it keeps us on target.
I think to your point, you know, I think if we do leave that on there with the quarterly, which is, you know, I'm not tied to that either way, but it would be more of a touch base. Like it's, you know, is there anything, you know, are we moving along? Maybe we schedule an every 6 month really sort of delve into it. Let's review each one, and at the 3 month mark, just make sure it's on the agenda. Is there anything that's changed that we can see we're not in line with, or we think we need to modify?
Yeah. Some library boards, they put the main goals of the plan in the library board president's agenda. And then just as a reminder, you have the reminder of the sections, and then if anybody wants to address the section, they can. And if they don't, you just, you know, move on because there's nothing to talk about.
Okay.
And that way it kind of helps you to remember that you have this plan. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Some months you might not talk about any of the goals. Maybe there's nothing new to talk about. But, you know, they're there. It's like a reminder. I think that would be easier.
Yeah, I like that idea.
We're going to have a lot to talk about, especially like looking at number 3, sustain the current library hours and explore opportunities to increase or optimize hours. And we're already talking about, we don't know what's going to happen and we may have to reduce those hours. So yeah, I think we need to be able to kind of reevaluate as information becomes available.
Right.
Periodically.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good.
But just the 1, 2, like the Roman numeral stuff, not all the detail.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or your agendas will be like 5 pages long.
Yeah. Reference the document here with a hyperlink.
Nobody will do that though.
Yeah. I also, you know, like where you kind of generalize some of the statements too, so that it left it open for, you know, movement and adjustments. So
right.
I like that wording. So great. All right. So can we make a motion then to approve the modified long-range plan?
I'll make that motion. We approve the long-range plan as presented.
I'll second it.
And then all in favor?
Yeah, put it on the website now because we're supposed
to. Great job.
Yay, woohoo.
That's exciting.
I noted on the plan, I don't know if you guys noticed, but I have it on there that it's been amended.
Yeah.
So kudos to the Strategic Planning Committee.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a chore for sure.
Yeah, but it's done. Yeah.
Awesome.
And I think because we amended it enough, it should be good through 2023. Does that seem right?
Yeah. And then
kind of like, it took a long time to get it. But, well, it wouldn't have taken as long, but there were just too many things that kept, so.
Yeah. No, it's
I think we should stick with it for a little while.
Yeah.
All right.
Agreed.
Wonderful. Okay. Any other topics that anyone wanted to bring up? I'll open it to the floor.
I just wanted to mention, if anybody's interested, tomorrow I'm giving a presentation for the library on a historic figure. I've given the presentation several times before to the Monroe County Bar Association and the Seneca Falls Historical Society, the Macedon Library, the Susan B. Anthony House is who I developed it for. It's on Belva and Lockwood. It's tomorrow at 6 o'clock by Zoom.
Oh, wow.
And it's she is a 19th century attorney from Niagara County. She was the first woman to be admitted to practice before the U.S. Supreme Court. She was a suffrage supporter, and she ran for president twice in the 1880s. So she's a really interesting figure, and it's, I updated, if you'd seen it before, I updated the program last year for the Monroe County Bar Association, so it's not exactly the same as what you may have seen before. So yeah, if you're interested, Stacy can send you a Zoom.
Yeah, just email me.
Yeah.
I'd like to see it.
Okay.
Does anybody know they want an invite? Because I'll send them out after the meeting.
I wish I could.
Okay.
Yeah, can you send it to me, Stacy, please?
Sure.
And there are materials too. Stacy, you're going to send the materials in advance, right? Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, Denise, I'm going to miss it, but there's another plug at the same time.
Oh, sure. I understand.
Ron's hosting a public library financial oversight session.
Nice.
So I had already had that on my agenda to attend. So
yeah, no, I understand. And actually, next week, right, Stacy?
Yeah.
On the
26th. No, wait. I can look in my thing here.
There's a different one next week. It's a different program I developed for the Susan B. Anthony House. It's on Catherine Beecher. She was a 19th century educator. She was a well-known, she wrote books, she wrote articles. She was well-known in the 19th century. And she was opposed to suffrage, women's suffrage. So that's next week. And I don't. Is that new series, Mrs. America? Is that about that?
No.
Okay. This was a program. The Susan B. Anthony House had asked me to do one of their lecture series, so I did her last year. Interesting. Yeah, so if you're interested, that's next week. I don't remember the day exactly, but
Wasn't it also Wednesday, or am I crazy?
Yes, it is. I'm sorry, I haven't seen it. It's the 27th at 6 next week. So, okay, I'm done.
That's great.
Yeah. Does anybody want me to send the invite for that one too?
Yeah, can you send it along?
Yes, please.
I'll also pass it along to some folks.
Yeah, send it to me.
Sure, Stacy.
Make sure you know the people so we don't get Zoom bummed.
Oh, yeah.
But don't put it on Facebook, because
that's
a mistake. Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah. All right. One other thing, I know it is about 6 months away or so, but with time flying as it is, I just want to throw out that at the in December, January, that we're going to have some changing of the guards. So I'd like for folks to kind of think about those roles. I can't exactly, is secretary a year, 2 years? 3, 2?
I don't know. I have no idea.
5 years, Denise?
Right. How long can you be secretary? I thought isn't every position 2 terms?
I thought it was 2, but anyway, if you.
Okay, I can do it again.
Well, Stacy, if you wanna, could do me a favor and just look those.
I'll do it right now.
But then, you know, if folks want to think about, you know, what interests them and, you know, I think president is it 2 years or 3 years? Vice president, I think, is 2 or 3.
3 what?
So anyway,
Yeah, a question about the Erie Canal event or whatever that originally I know was, I assume it's canceled. Has that been publicly put out there, or was it never really publicly announced? So we don't need to publicly cancel it.
Well, yeah, I mean, we only did a year, so I don't know that it's traditional enough to, I don't know that we want to draw a lot of attention to the fact. I don't know. What do you all think? In answer to the other question, by the way, it's 3. You can do 3 years.
thank you.
I looked in the bylaws.
Yeah.
There's can and then there's want.
Yeah, I don't. As far
On that
as
line, along those lines, I think I will bow out of the board after this year. I got some issues coming, so
Okay.
I'll find somebody else for the board after December.
we'll start recruiting.
I'm sorry?
Hey, Al, we'll miss you.
Yeah.
Wasn't there a new rule that if you leave, you had to find a replacement?
Yeah.
That was before, that will come
I
after
forgot
this.
that.
Yes, I think we talked about that when we were at one of our meetings. All right. Well, with that said, anybody else have anything? All right. So I will make a motion to adjourn our. Go
One
ahead.
quick thing in regards to the employee that, so the one that cannot work in a public facing position would like a reasonable accommodation to be able to work in the Bullis room. So I just want to also note that, and we can't really deny a reasonable accommodation request because there's laws that protect people from that. So looking at 4 to 8 hours a week in the Bullis room, she's willing to take less hours. So I just want to note that too.
Yeah. I don't.
So we can't really, so that costs us money if you think about it, because we're going to have to hire somebody to do the hours she would have normally done. Do you know what I mean? But we're still going to have to pay her to be in the Bullis room.
Well, what is she doing in the Bullis room? Like,
she's covering all the books and she's organizing them so you could actually find them quickly when you want one, because the system currently in place isn't the best. They don't have Dewey Decimals on them, and she's been working on that, and covers and getting them in the catalog so they're easily found.
are there other things that she has been doing, like since being home, that she could continue to kind of flex some of that time?
Well, she could do like her genealogy thing that she writes a genealogy tips. And I'm going to ask her if she thinks, like, if she's in the Bullis room, if she could still do overdues, you know, as long as she's in that room and people aren't around her. I don't know what she'll say to that, but
yeah.
But she worked a lot of hours, like when we were normal on the desk, you know, she did a lot of public facing hours and she just can't do it anymore.
Right.
I mean, I don't blame her.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of work that can be done that's not public facing. And, you know, I think if we can utilize her for those types of things, you know,
right.
Just
but this is probably going to be for 2 years, because if that's how long, she needs the accommodation until there's a vaccination.
Yeah.
Can she take the calls for requests for books? Is there a phone in there?
I don't think there's no phone in the Bullis room.
or the emails. Maybe that could be something that she could do.
Well, but then how's she going to tell us? She doesn't want to be near anybody.
Is there do you have like,
And the computer in the Bullis room's not very good. It's ancient.
we have the new laptops. Could she
That's true.
leverage that in any way to, and then come up with like a messaging, like an instant message? I mean, we use Skype. You could use Zoom. You have chat through Zoom.
Right.
We hooked her up with a laptop and maybe kind of leverage some of her hours that way.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
So what is she going to be doing?
The emails for the requests. You said that you were thinking about maybe setting up an email for.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, she could probably do that.
If she's cataloging things, what computer is she doing that on?
She just enters them in using the old one in the Bullis room. She's not really cataloging per se. She's just making sure they get added with the new call numbers. I'm not explaining this well, but anyway.
Yeah, I think my only concern is, and just making sure that we can flex those hours.
Well, she's willing to work in the Bullis room. She doesn't mind coming in as long as it's just she's in the Bullis room and there's no public around her or other staff. And I mean, honestly, the Bullis room isn't very busy most of the time, so it's kind of a good spot.
Yeah, no, I'm not disagreeing with the location being ideal. I just, if there's other work that we can kind of utilize her while in that room and not facing the public directly, I think.
Yeah, it could work. Taking the requests could work.
Could she, I know you're trying to keep her in the Bullis room, but if a request comes in, someone's obviously going to the shelves to pull, she couldn't do that work?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
She doesn't want to be anywhere in the library proper.
Okay.
She hasn't got much of an immune system, really. She takes some kind of immunotherapy just so that, whatever chemo she went through, it wrecked her system.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's common. But yeah, I would just like to, to Bruce's earlier comment, us being creative in our, how we leverage and change and maybe we could just utilize her in some ways, creative ways.
If she's asking for an accommodation, does she have a doctor's note that says?
I will on Thursday.
Okay. That says she can actually go physically to the library and be there, just not around.
Well,
patrons.
Presumably she'll have it on Thursday. She's seeing her pulmonologist.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if she's somebody who even qualifies to go to the library and work at all.
Right.
That's true.
Yeah.
And it's kind of cold in that Bullis room.
It's cold. Yeah.
No, it is. I agree.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Okay.
But it's still, no matter what we find for her to do, I just want to note that most of the kind of stuff she's going to be able to do isn't going to be like the main stuff you would need people to do in a library. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But I mean, if somebody had a 15-pound weight restriction, lifting restriction, you'd need to see that from their doctor. So I think you need to see that she can really.
Yeah.
She's okay to come in.
Yeah.
I don't think the doctor can write it that way, though, can they? It's more like,
I don't know.
Because you can't tell somebody that they can't do something under the law, or it's like a, I don't know.
Did they recommend it for, well, I mean, if somebody has a 15-pound lifting restriction, you can't make them lift 20 pounds.
Right. Yeah, but you can't say that it's not recommended you go to work at all. Your workplace.
Well, her note should identify what are the restrictions.
Right.
That's the key.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to be conscious with, you know, utilizing her time.
Right.
You know, those 4 to 8 or 6 to 8 hours or whatever they were.
Yeah.
You know, being creative and just keeping her busy.
Right.
But anyway.
Oh, she's good at keeping herself busy. I don't have any worries that way.
Yeah.
It's just that it's not the busy I wish she could do.
Sure. Yeah. All right. Anything else? All right. Well, thank you all so much. I'll make our motion to adjourn our May meeting. It's 7:46.
I'll second it.
Thank you. All
In
right.
favor.
And we will see you all in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
All right. And we'll see you next month via Zoom, probably.
Probably.
Okay.
And
Take
stay
care,
safe.
everybody.
Bye.
Stay
Have a
well,
good rest of your
everyone.
week.
Take care.
Yeah.